and a warm welcome to everyone joining us online. Wherever you are, welcome to this year's Annual Stakeholder Meeting. Our university has a great heritage that provides a solid foundation for our future. Since our founding in Edinburgh in 1821, we've had a clear purpose to provide access to education, transform working lives, and advance knowledge for the benefit of all. This ethos resonated with a much-loved member of our community, Deputy Chair of Court and Heriot-Watt alumnus Cameron Miller, who sadly passed away earlier this year. Through his work on the 1821 Appeal Fundraising Board, Cameron ensured that many young people received the chance to fulfil their aspirations, and we're here to continue that work. Our 2022-23 annual report marks the halfway point in delivering Strategy 2025, a strategy which puts its people and purpose at the centre of its mission. In 2022-23, we focused on stabilising, supporting and transforming the university, including significant investment in a new enterprise system for HR and finance and a shared services model. This change process was challenging throughout the reporting period, but as we speak today, we are seeing clearly the benefits of these investments. In the 2023 Graduate Outcomes Survey, we were ranked first in Scotland for both undergraduate and postgraduate outcomes. Heriot-Watt also achieved its 2025 goal of a top quartile ranking in the QS World Rankings. While the graduate outcomes were outstanding, the UK National Student Survey results for the graduating fourth years were disappointing, and improving the student experience remains a top priority for this year. All these achievements are a tribute to the work and dedication of our staff who support students through their educational journey and deliver the excellence in education and research which are at the heart of our mission. So I'd now like to introduce our University Secretary, Ruth Moyer.
Thank you, Bruce, and a very warm welcome to you all. May I also welcome our presenters and panel, Martin Pringle, the Global Chief Operating Officer, Professor Gillian Murray, Financial Officer, made a mistake. Gillian Murray, Deputy Principal, Business and Enterprise. Our Deputy Chair of Court, Mike Tumulty. Professor Richard Williams, Principal and Vice Chancellor. Professor Dame Heather McGregor, Provost and Vice Principal of Heriot-Watt University, Dubai. Professor Mercedes Marotta-Valle, Deputy Principal for Global Sustainability. And Scott Anderson, our Student President. Unfortunately, our Chancellor, Professor Emeritus Sir Jeff Palmer, was unable to join us today. Our theme is empowering success and shaping a sustainable future. And following our presentations today, we'll open up for a Q&A session and we welcome your questions and comments. Now let me hand over to our Principal and Vice Chancellor, Professor Richard Williams.
Thank you very much, Ruth, and a very warm welcome to everyone, and thank you also to Bruce as Chair of Court. First of all, it's delighted to see you here today in Edinburgh, and to a warm welcome to all of those online. At Heriot-Watt University, we're really proud to be a multinational university, and since last year's annual stakeholder meeting, we have driven forward our mission through Strategy 2025. We've been reinforcing our commitment to having a truly global mindset, to having a values-led community, to having purpose-led education, and to achieving excellence in our research and teaching. As ever, our strength lies in our partnerships with students, with our global alumni community, with society, with other academic institutions, and of course with our external business partners. And these partnerships would not be what they are without the great efforts and skill of our staff. And I'd particularly like to thank our staff and colleagues across the globe for the work that they have been doing. I'm also especially grateful for the continued support and our special partnership with the Student Union and the Student Council officers, and our collective action to deliver our Student Partnership Agreement. Well, each year creates opportunities for higher education institutions globally, but also risks. and 2023 was certainly no exception. To keep focused on delivering the commitments we made in Strategy 2025 and to communicate these priorities and to guide our decisions, we committed to the 3 themes mentioned earlier, which were to stabilize and support, to transform, and to grow. And of course, in our first full post-pandemic year, and one in which we adopted the new enterprise reporting system, stabilizing and support was an essential theme for growing the confidence of the whole organization and also pursuing our strategy. We were active in investing the resources necessary to restore timely and accurate management information and to provide effective operational support for our academic and professional service colleagues. There's still work to do, but significant advances have been achieved. We've also grown the support and structure in fundraising. For example, in driving forward a refreshed American Friends of Heriot-Watt University Board. And it's with great gratitude to the current and past trustees of that board for their invaluable commitment to this institution. On the theme of transforming, we have grown the university now to have 6 schools. We welcomed the inception of the Heriot-Watt Global College. The Global College took on the success from the foundation pathways that we have in Dubai and Malaysia and united them into a single academic unit, which provides new pathways to our degrees for students from around the world. And we've seen focus in our third theme in terms of growth in delivering achievements such as the opening of the National Robotarium here on the Edinburgh campus and welcoming a record number of students to the university, particularly at our new Dubai campus and also in applications for the Heriot-Watt Global College. I thought I'd share with you just 6 areas that for me were standout things about our year 22-23. And particularly as we measure our progress in our mission to be a purposeful university. The first is about our inclusivity and accessibility. We have been extremely purposeful in assuring a globally applicable strategy to inclusion and access. In fact, last year, 29% of students who registered to study with us did so directly as a result of an intervention that we have made to open up an accessible pathway to study, 29%. For example, our flexible approach to teaching has allowed us to deliver MBA programs in refugee camps in Lebanon, to provide master's level degrees in renewable energy for rural African communities, and to welcome the first cohort of students in Dubai from local low-income community schools this year, and the award of free scholarships and an annual stipend. The second area is how we have been purposeful in growing a positive education model, nurturing emotional intelligence and purpose and impact in both our staff and our students. And across the university, we've encouraged participation in our impact statement workshops, seeking to enable individuals to identify their own strong sense of purpose. The third area is our commitment to global sustainability. We've been purposeful in our commitment to be a beacon of best practice in sustainability. We are developing a global net zero community hub, a place for us all, a real space and a cyberspace where we can learn what we can do personally to mitigate climate change, a place where we can become carbon literate and develop our understanding of where to focus our personal efforts. Also, in Panmure House off the Royal Mile, we are proud to have a venue to convene on topics of financial enlightenment and sustainable capitalism made possible by our donor partners. This slide shows the lecture we gave on the role of higher educational leadership in driving sustainability. The fourth area is how we've been breaking ground with our global research institutes. We have now established 4 convening platforms that weave together our leading research areas to provide a platform on which we can work with others to solve global challenges. The Global Research Institutes, or GRIs, focus on health and care technologies, marine and earth sciences, human-centered AI and robotics, and global sustainability. For example, this year we celebrated the opening of the National Orbitarium and also approved the establishment of our iNet Zero Plus Research Institute. This makes the whole research experience at Heriot-Watt particularly exciting at this time. The fifth area is really in our commitment to develop leaders. This year saw the launch of the university's new Global Leadership Programme that we've developed based on 3 modules of our award-winning MBA programme. It's been designed to equip our high-potential emerging leaders within our own university with the ability to manage people, resources, and provide leadership, specifically within a higher education context. Its 3 modules span a year and are delivered in turn at each of our 3 major campuses in Malaysia, Dubai, and Edinburgh. And the first cohort of 18 of our staff, divided equally between academic and professional services, commenced their studies in May last year. And overall, it's been greatly valued. And lastly, we're purposeful in our intent in being a force for good in this complex global world, working with our local civic societies in which we operate. In Scotland, Malaysia, and the United Arab Emirates, we are committed to adding value to the communities in which we work. Alongside our Pro-Chancellor in Malaysia, Tan Sri Jamila Mahmud, who was appointed in the prior year, we appointed Dr. Raja Al Ghurg as our Pro-Chancellor in Dubai. They have provided inspirational leadership for our staff and students and have supported our mission through their advocacy. So, as the Chair of Quarter said, our success in growing our reputation for graduate employability and research impact is the foundation for us, which I believe will provide a continuing strong platform for our future development. So let me conclude and pass back to the Secretary.
Thank you, Richard. And I'd now like to introduce Professor Sandy Kerr in a short film from our Orkney campus, home of the International Centre for Island Technology.
Hello, I'm Professor Sandy Kerr, Director of ICIT here at Heriot-Watt University's Orkney campus, and I'm delighted to be part of this year's Annual Stakeholder Meeting. And I'm joined today by Dr. Simon Waldman, who's Assistant Professor of Energy Technology, and two of our PhD students, Jack Bolton and Ika Susilawati. So I just wanted to kick off by asking Simon, how does ICIT contribute to the global sustainability challenges in the marine renewables and net zero sector that Heriot-Watt as a whole are trying to engage to? How do we contribute to that?
So I think the key there, Sandy, is what you said about multidisciplinarity. In that we're a small team here, we're looking at similar topics, but we're approaching them from all sorts of different angles. Yeah. So taking the example of marine renewables, we're not approaching those challenges purely as engineering ones. We're thinking about the environmental aspects and the social aspects and the policy aspects. And I think we all try to look ahead a bit and look a bit beyond what the industry is facing right now to what they're going to need to deal with in the future. But as you noted, it's not all about marine renewables. We're also hosting here the Island Centre for Net Zero, which is specifically about the challenges that are unique to island communities in reaching net zero. And that's a project between Orkney, Shetland and the Western Isles. But of course, we hope that the findings from it will be applicable then to island communities across the globe.
All over the world, yeah. It's fantastic. And students are such an important part of our community here. But maybe, Ika, if you could just say, well, very quickly, where are you from? Because you've come a long way, you're part of that global story, and a little bit about your research.
Yeah, I'm from Indonesia. It's an amazing country with more than 17,000 islands. Yep. So now I'm currently taking a Master of Research program here at Heriot-Watt Orkney campus, with specific topic in offshore wind development in South Sulawesi, Indonesia. Yeah. And here I see Orkney as a miniature of Indonesia.
So it's a really good example of you learning locally but taking that knowledge globally.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. And Jack, you've come equally as far Yeah.
Yeah.
Just say a little bit about just where you've come from. And
Yeah, so I've come all the way from New Zealand, which is about as far as you can get from Orkney geographically. A lot of cultural similarities, I think, just with different kind of weather and resources around as an island. My background's in engineering, and I've come to Orkney to do a PhD looking into business models of the decline of the oil industry. So it's focusing on that kind of living with a reduction of fossil fuels and how can we drive that. What kind of surprised me a bit was how much was going on. Like, I mean, you know, you're coming to a small island community, and I was kind of blown away by, I guess, the amount of events, the amount of things going on, probably because it's so isolated, and I guess the diversity of people around here.
I feel like I love the people, the cultures, and also like the ambience of Orkney.
Yeah.
Like, give me a sense of calm that I wouldn't get if I live in the big
Yeah.
city like Jakarta, Indonesia.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice. Simon, in terms of the innovation that happens in Orkney, how do you feel that Heriot-Watt and ICID contribute to, you know, to Orkney and the innovation that's happening here?
I guess the clearest example of that actually is simply looking at how many of our alumni from the Orkney campus are still here and still working here, whether in the renewables industry, whether in consultancies, whether in NGOs, whether actually within local government. It's also perhaps worth noting that Orbital Marine Power, one of the world-leading tidal energy systems at the moment, was founded by one of our students based on an idea that he generated during his PhD.
Yeah.
So that's a direct contribution that we've made locally and globally.
There's also our online students, and what we try to do is give our online students the opportunity to take part in field trip activities here in Orkney, but also they have the opportunity to go into the Malaysia field trip as well.
That's a really good point, and it's important to remember that because of the size of this campus, we have a limited number of students physically here, but at the moment we have, I think, about 160 online. So there's a global community connected to us.
So I'd just like to say thanks to Simon, Jack and Ika. It's been really interesting hearing about your experiences and how we connect with locally and globally and with the other campuses. So I'd now like to hand you over to the Global Chief Financial Officer for Heriot-Watt, Martin Pringle.
Thank you, Sandy. Whilst Heriot-Watt posted an overall loss during the year 22-23, it was still a good year for the university as we continue to grow and implement our 2025 strategy. Overall, our income has increased by 4.8% compared to the prior year. This was primarily driven by both tuition fees and other income lines. Whilst our overall cost base has decreased by 2.8% during the year, primarily due to the reduction in our USS pension liabilities as opposed to our overall cost base, which continue to rise. Cash remains strong, and it is key that we maintain this strong cash base as it will provide the protection we need for any future adverse events. Finally, whilst we generated an overall loss in the year, the university is committed to ensuring a return to profitability on an operational basis to ensure our sustainability in the future. Looking at our income over the past 5 years, you can see that we have maintained our overall growth profile over this period and are well positioned to continue to grow and thrive in the future. Key to this is the role our 5 campuses play across the world as they deliver valuable diversity of income and lowering our dependency on any one single campus to deliver our income and our profitability. As you can also see, tuition fees continue to be the most significant component in our revenue stream and highlights the need to continue to grow over other income streams such as research to make sure that we have that diversity in the future. I mentioned earlier that overall expenses for this year decreased by 2.8%, and that was driven by a reduction in our overall USS pension liabilities. And you can see from the graph behind me how this fluctuates from year to year. As you would expect, our operational expenses have increased over the past year, reflecting both inflationary increases and investments in initiatives to grow other income lines such as GRIs and provide the diversity that we need. We will continue to proactively manage our expense base to generate a return to profitability on an operational basis and to ensure our financial stability in the future. Thank you. And now I invite you to watch a short film on empowering our student community.
Heriot-Watt is a unique global learning community. Our global reach and the diversity of our student and staff community make it a truly inspiring place to study, to work and to research. To explore what that means in practice, I'm joined today by Conal Greenhorn, the Vice President of Education for Heriot-Watt Student Union, and by Russell Brooke, Chief Executive of Heriot-Watt Online. How are students able to make the most of being part of our global learning community?
One of the first ways that students can be part of our global community is by undertaking the Go Global programme. So it allows students to go and study in Dubai and Malaysia. And I think that's a really good way for students to experience education and the cultural experiences that are on offer at those campuses.
Can you tell us a bit about what the Student Union have been doing to support those connections?
So one of the really big events that we hold every single year is Global Day. So this is held in the Student Union, the Student Association and the Student Council, where it's a really good way to celebrate and to empower students to come forward and express their cultural diversity and differences and share that with students and with staff. And it's a really good way to look at food and music, and it might be different talents and hobbies that they have, and really share that with us all.
And we've seen a real shift in how the student representative bodies are working globally.
We've made a real commitment this year to improving and increasing global connectivity with the different campuses. So whether that's through our Learning and Teaching Oscars, whether it's through our volunteering awards, it's really about celebrating students and celebrating staff and the work that's achieved here at Heriot-Watt.
And as you come to the end of your time as VP Education, what's inspired you the most about our student community?
I think on a personal note, I think the sheer volume of volunteering that's been undertaken by our students and the way that we recognise and celebrate that is really important. That really links in with graduate employment and thinking about how some of those skills and experiences are transferable to what employers are looking for.
Russell, as CEO of Heriot-Watt Online, could you tell us a little bit about how Heriot-Watt Online is opening new routes to education?
We've been global leaders in online and distance learning for nearly 3 decades now, and that means that we've got really good offering a flexible and accessible model of online learning, and that's shown in the numbers. So we have around 8,000 students who study with us from every corner of the world.
Distance learning is often seen as something that can, as a lonely enterprise. How is Heriot-Watt Online helping support students feel part of the community and that they really belong at Heriot-Watt?
So this is a myth that we love to bust. Online learning gives students the opportunity to come and really be part of a global community that is hugely broad, and we see students who are making connections both personally, professionally, and academically through studying with us. My favourite example of this is Margaret and Rachel, who are 2 of our students on the MBA. Margaret lives in Zambia, Rachel lives in Norway, and they both met each other through studying with us. Their lives would probably never have crossed, and they supported each other initially through a study group to master one of their MBA courses, and have then continued as friends. And their families have also become connected as well. And actually, they met for the first time at the graduation last year.
How did we meet? So there's a course we were doing together, finance and accounting. And financial decision making. I keep calling it finance and accounting. Financial decision making, not the easiest courses in the syllabus. And she was looking for material, I was looking for material, and we connected.
Yeah, we had heard rumors that it was a challenging course, and the first few courses were okay to do alone, and then felt the need to kind of reach out, and we used the Heriot-Watt Facebook page.
I would say Rachel is not one of the closest friends I met during the journey. During the online program, one would have thought you'd be alone through the journey because it's really just computers and your online portal. But I found that you can find friends and build meaningful relationships. And a true testament to that is being with Rachel.
Conal, Russell, thank you so much for joining today. I'll hand over now to Ruth Moyer.
Thank you for that. And now let's hear from Deputy Principal Professor Jill Murray, who will discuss the importance and impact of partnerships to the university.
Thank you, Ruth. Good morning and good afternoon, esteemed colleagues and guests. Today I'm thrilled to speak about the transformative power our diverse partnerships have in driving our enterprising research culture. At Heriot-Watt, our partnerships are diverse and multifaceted. They range from strategic alliances with global leaders like Tata Consulting Services and BT, to collaborations with startups and spin-outs, nurturing their growth during the crucial early years. Our integrated approach to partnership spans talent development, research, and commercialisation. And these relationships offer profound benefits to our organisation. Benefits including bringing diverse perspectives, opening up access to new funding, and enhancing our ability to address global challenges through extending both our capacity and our capability. The success of our partnership building over the last few years is epitomised by our recent achievements in establishing 6 new centres for doctoral training. Here, through working with 170 industry partners, we have secured funding for 600 PhD students, together creating innovation-ready talent needed for the future. As we continue to build diverse professional partnerships, together we strengthen our ability to make an impact on the world in which we live. And I would like to close by thanking all our partners who may be listening today for the contributions that they make to our flourishing community at Heriot-Watt University. And I invite you all to watch a short video featuring wider aspects of our research culture from Professor Jemina Napier, Professor Steve McLaughlin, and Dr. Fiona Armstrong.
Hello everybody, we're here today to talk to you about our enterprising research culture at Heriot-Watt University. So I'm going to open up by asking Fiona and Steve our first question about getting you to reflect a bit on our research performance over the last year and how you think we've done here at Heriot-Watt. Would you like to kick off, Steve?
So we've had an absolutely fantastic year. This year we've had our 3rd highest ever research awards, approximately 49 million in new research awards. What I think is really interesting to reflect on is that it didn't happen by chance. You know, when we came out of COVID, the academic staff were in a very different place. The ability to interact and have a dialogue about how you prepare for research grants, they hadn't been able to do that properly for 2 years. So the pipeline of research proposals was pretty empty. So Fiona and I and the team worked really hard on what I would describe as the cultural focus on research quality and excellence that was really focused on how we deliver impact for society and business.
So I think Steve's right. We really needed a reset after COVID. Everyone had such a difficult time being apart, you know, not being able to have access to their laboratories or to the ideas and the intellectual capital that's so important for research. So we funded a research recovery fund, which enabled researchers to apply for that and to really, you know, based on what they thought they needed to really kickstart their research. In research engagement, we were really focused on making sure that they could understand the new funding landscape, because expectations of research have really changed. It may be to do with COVID, and you know there was a lot of research in the public gaze with COVID vaccine, and so research has to deliver for society. It has to have that impact, and we were really, you know, understanding ourselves what that shift might mean for research and research quality.
So, and you actually were looking at developing a broader strategy and embedding research culture within that strategy. Do you want to say a bit more about that?
There's often a phrase, you know, when they talk about culture eats strategy for breakfast, but actually we took the view that they were intimately linked. So a very strategic focus to work with the schools to think, what is the research strategy, what are the targets you wish to achieve? The global research institutes within the university, which are very much focused on that partnership with business and industry. And then also underlying it as a culture where it's that, as Fiona talked about, that how do we share the intellectual capital and people understand that you really test your ideas. So when you go out to win grants competitively, you've already really tested that. And I think that's testament to why we've had that excellent performance in terms of the awards, because of course that resource enables us to really focus. But the core of this is actually that's a culture that will remain and continue to actually allow us to develop further.
So I think what we've tried to do through the research strategies is to really encourage ambition amongst our researchers and amongst our research institutes and schools. And that can look different depending on different disciplines. It's not just about getting, a larger grant application in and being successful. It's really about making sure that we can include everyone in that ambition. So we have a fantastic opportunity here for interdisciplinarity. We can have global impact, and we've been trying to encourage that ambition by bringing researchers together to talk about their ideas and to take them forward as part of this larger school strategy.
So, Steve, what do you think this means then for the future?
So I think we established an incredibly strong foundation for a really fantastic research culture that is going to deliver greater impact from the research in the university and considerable growth in terms of research income. And I think we can already see that, and that's something that we'll continue to build on.
So we'll look forward to working together on that. And now we'll hand back over to Ruth Moyer.
Thank you. And we're now going to move to Dubai, where last week Professor Dame Heather McGregor, who's with us here today, was joined by one of Forbes Middle East's top 10 most powerful Arab businesswomen, our Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Raja Isa Al-Gurg.
So it's my pleasure today to speak with you, Dr. Raja, and you, of course, are first and foremost the chair and the managing director of the Al-Gurg Group.
My passion is education, and this is where my first career path started, in the Ministry of Education for almost 12 to 13 years. I've been also looking after the women issues in our part of the world, and especially in United Arab Emirates. And I'm the founder of Dubai Businesswomen Council, and for some time I was the president also of United Arab Women Council on the federal side of it. And I traveled a lot, and I spoke about women a lot, and I spoke about women's achievement in our part of the world. More than 25,000 businesswomen, United Arab Emirates businesswomen, are running their businesses worth of 60 billion dirhams.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a serious material amount.
Exactly. So I'm really proud of that. And I took a long time from 2002 up to 2006 to change the image of the woman in the eyes of the outside world.
That's why you started all of this work, was it? To change that?
Exactly.
I did want to know a bit about the support in your life. Who has mentored and supported you? Who has been the biggest influence on you in your professional and personal journey?
On the top of the structure is our leaders. And Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid was really a support for every single woman. My father was my mentor. Then, of course, I was awarded by, God bless him, Sheikh Mohammed, to be the chairperson of Al Jalila Foundation.
I know you're very particularly generous with not only your giving, but your giving of your time and your commitment, and that's obviously very important. And talking about giving, you have very generously given to establish the library at Pamir House, and allowed us to start to collect back the books that Adam Smith had when he was there. And I just wondered, what was it about that project that you really felt interested in? Why that project? I mean, it's beautiful, but what made you motivated to do that?
This gentleman is the pillar of economy. When I sat in that library, I don't know, I felt something different in me. Why the library is empty? For a man who had given to economy, somebody should really value his work that was done years ago and be present there for the new generation to look and to see how was he doing it, what is the mechanism.
Yeah, and what influenced him?
Exactly. And then that's why I immediately on the spot.
No, you're right, you're on the spot.
On the spot, I said, I want this project, you know. So I'm very proud and very, very happy that my logo is there, Raja Isa Al Ghurb, to be with
Adam Smith. Yes,
exactly.
Do you think that there have been, in the region as a whole, barriers? Do you think it's been harder for women to set up businesses, or do you think the UAE has led the way, really?
Of course, I must say, first of all, UAE has led the way. When they asked me the question of challenges, I said the challenge is inside you. You challenge yourself. You can't be successful all the time. You have to fail to learn.
Yes.
And you have to challenge yourself to be more strong to give into where you are.
Well, those are fantastic pieces of advice. And so why don't we finish here? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And back in Edinburgh, I'm handing you now to Ruth Moyer, the University Secretary.
Thank you, Heather. And now I'd like to introduce Deputy Principal Professor Mercedes Morota-Valle, who will talk about our global environmental sustainability strategy.
Good day, and thank you very much, Ruth. I'm really excited to be here. And why do I say this? 2022, 2023, we know we came out of the phase of adversity, and yet, despite of all that, we continue demonstrating our commitment to be a lighthouse in global environmental sustainability. And we did this, and this is quite important, not only through our ambition, but also our actual delivery of a series of very, very important activities going forward. I'm not going to have time to go through all the highlights and all the fantastic achievements in this space, but I do want to highlight a few of them in that slide. And what I particularly want to highlight is really how all this has been driven through community. This has been not something our staff or student communities, our alumni, but has been all coming together in partnership that we have been able to make significant changes. And as examples that you have there, our student communities have been key in our journey here. They have established a net zero community. We were able also to give them an award to demonstrate really and be grateful for the fantastic activities that they volunteer to do in the area of sustainability. It hasn't ended up here. We know that we also have to keep our commitment to become net zero in our physical and digital spaces. And we are working very hard to make sure that we achieve that as a global community across all our global campuses. Just to give you an example, in Scotland, in our 2022-2023 year, we were able to reduce our CO2 emissions by 50% with respect to the 2014-2015 baseline. And this is just one example. There have been many other examples across our global campuses where we continue increasing our efficiency of our buildings, the way we travel to make sure we achieve net zero targets and be sustainable. And very important as well is not only our physical and digital space, it's not only our communities, it's also our research, it's also our enterprise, it's our education programs. And particularly want to highlight here the activities that have happened through Palmware House in the report here. So we have achieved significant things in 2022-23, but not only that, we have set the foundations for the coming year. So what we have now is 3 very important activities that we are all together to deliver and to co-create the space. We have actually working on a climate action framework that I'm very pleased to report that will be published within June this year. We also are working together to co-create a carbon advocacy, carbon literacy program. So all our students, all our staff, all our alumni, not only literate, but they are advocates in making changes so we become more sustainable and have an impact on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And really wrapping around all this, as it has been mentioned, we are also putting together a net zero community hub, physical, digital space to actually affect change, to actually create advocates and really drive behavioral change that is so important in our global sustainability targets. So I'm going to finish with that. It has been a really exciting year. We have more plans going ahead, and we need to continue working together to make this happen. Thank you very much, and I'm going to pass it to the Chair of Court.
Thanks, Mercedes. Delivering Strategy 2025 And looking towards Strategy 2035, our focus is on driving sustainability in all aspects, including environmental and financial, while delivering the quality of student and staff experience and excellence in education and research, which are at the heart of our mission. Partnerships will remain important, and we are grateful to all of our industry, academic and technology partners for their invaluable contributions. As we look ahead, the funding climate is going to remain challenging, and like all institutions, we continue to be impacted by global geopolitical and economic issues. However, we are resolute in improving our financial sustainability and the efficiency and effectiveness of our governance and global operations to best support our academic endeavours in both teaching and research. As Chair of Court and a Heriot-Watt graduate, I'm very proud of the impact made by our staff and students across our global university. I remain confident in our collective resilience and determination to shape the university for the future, guided by our shared commitment to excellence and inclusivity. Thank you, everyone. And I'll now hand back to Ruth.
Thank you, and many thanks to all our presenters. Thank you. Now is your opportunity to raise questions or comments for the panel. And for those of you online, you can raise a question through Teams Live. We have roving mics to pick up questions from the audience here in Edinburgh. Please use the mic, or the couple of hundred people online won't be able to hear you. So I'm going to move now to Q&A, and while folks in the room are thinking of their questions, I'm going to move first to some of the questions that we've got online, and I've got a couple of questions that have been given to us ahead of the meeting. So I'm going to start with something that's of great concern to the university community at the moment. And as a community, we're always very concerned about the impacts of world events, whether they're the conflicts in the world or climate events that impact on our students and staff and their families and friends. And this is something that's always on our minds. But online, Richard, we've had a series of questions, actually, but about our role as a university in response to the crisis in Palestine. And it'd be really useful to hear from you, Richard, about the sort of things that we can do as a university and what our position is. And the person who's put this question has also asked whether we would make a statement about in particular about the crisis in Israel and Palestine. Thanks, Richard.
Okay. Well, I think first of all, our hearts go out to all of those people, our students and our staff and their families who've been affected by the terrible things that are going on in Israel and Palestine and Ukraine. Those circumstances are dire, aren't they? But our role as a university, as a global university, is absolutely to support our community. That's our first call to action. That's in our values, to look after our students, to look after our staff, and have care and concern for their families. And that's been very much our approach. You know, as a charity, we're not a political body. We're not sanctioned or mandated or wish to make political statements, nor would they, I suspect, have much impact anyway. Our concern is for our community, and our mission is to help individuals to grow their knowledge and to enjoy successful lives. So our approach overall is to do just that, to support. And I think in relation to the specific issues that the questioners asked about, what are we doing? Well, every 10 days, for example, I have discussions with other Vice-Chancellors across all UK universities about our collective UK response to the situation in Israel and Palestine, and in particular, reaching out to academic institutions and families that have been affected, for example, in Gaza. We subscribe to an organisation called CARA, which is a specific charity that makes links and connections, and through our subscriptions and through that charity, we are establishing organisations and academics on the ground, for example, in Gaza, with whom we can connect in the future and support in the same way as we do that in Ukraine. But I think just to say, given our global community, graduates in 190 nations, The terrible things that we see going on at the moment are going on to lesser extents in other communities as well. Things that we've supporting our students in Afghanistan, supporting our students in Sudan. So it isn't really our responsibility to make statements on political issues. It's absolutely our responsibility and our desire to support students and staff and to make sure that our university campuses, wherever they are safe places for all of our staff and all of our students from whatever their background.
Thank you, Richard. Now, I wonder if there's a question in the room. Professor Sawkins. Just bringing the mic to you. Thank you.
Thank you. This one's for Scott. I'd like the student voice to come out here. Scott, just reflecting on your past year, can you give us a sense of the way in which the student voice has kind of proactively shaped the outcomes for our students and student life? And if I could sneak in a second one as well, where to get your head around that, what piece of advice would you give to your successor in the role?
Great question.
Thanks, John. So I suppose at the Student Union, Student Council, Student Association, it's not just the full-time officers that are student representatives. You know, we've got a pyramidal structure from class reps to department officers to our members of parliament or members of council, then onto the full-time officers. And myself and Connell led a student voice review to understand how these representatives interact. And we also interacted with staff, because the key thing is interacting with the whole pyramid structure, not just the full-time officers. So as well as that, you know, we have our 4 key global priorities as student representative bodies this year. They were shaped by student surveys. So they were increasing global connectivity, reducing student isolation, limiting student confusion, and relieving financial pressure. And that they were global. Even though they had local contexts and how we delivered them, we decided to channel our work under those 4 priorities. So I suppose I'll leave that there for the student representation side. What advice would I give to my successor? Prepare your answers when you're coming to the annual stakeholder meeting. Yeah.
Good, Scott. And he's always prepared. Very good. I'm going to go to an online question, and then I'll come back to the room, so please think of your next question. So, Richard, I'll probably come to you on this one as well. So a Chinese student was in touch with us ahead of the meeting and concerned about the QS ranking of the university and interested in what we're doing to maintain the good progress we've made with the ranking position of the university.
Yes, a good question. Of course, in the year we've been talking about, and recently we have continued to enjoy a growth in the rankings, and there are many rankings tables, but the one that we particularly look at is the QS ranking, which is one of maybe 5 ranking tables that people look at, because that's the one that our international students like this student look at and associate the reputation of the university and the quality of the university with that ranking. And in our strategy, we've wished to grow to be 250th or better in the world, and we currently stand at 235. So we were able to break through that strategy level that we identified. We're very proud about that. How do we do that? Well, we focus on quality and impact. And how are we going to go forward in doing that? Again, is through focusing on quality and impact. In particular, we do work and have done work in the last year in helping people to understand our reputation, and that means we would contact companies and partners we're in touch with and invite them to participate in the survey. This actually is done via the ranking organization, where we can submit the names of people we work with, and then the ranking organization contacts them and sees if they want to comment upon us. So that's done at arm's length. But internally, we need to make sure that we are performing well in terms of our research impact, in terms of the publications and their citations, and also in terms of the quality of the student experience, for example, as measured through the NSS survey. And for us going forward, one of the areas to focus on very strongly is in our research citations, which need to be strengthened as we go forward. So that's, for me, a major area of work. So to answer the question, we don't sit back and wait to see what happens. Yeah. We are working to drive forward our quality and our excellence.
Great, thank you, Richard. And I've got a really good question online here for Mercedes. This individual says, this is a great presentation. It's inspiring to see graduates practicing SDGs initiatives in real-life scenarios. That will be the best position to reflect on and enhance such discussions in the future from the practical ground. How are we thinking about that?
Yes, so I think that's a really good question, and that's one of the areas we are addressing through the climate advocacy course that we are developing. I think what is important, as I said, is not just only to be literates, but really to be advocates, to really share all the fantastic stories that we are doing, each one of us, to help in the sustainability journey. And that's really the element that we're trying to do. The UN Sustainable Development Goals give us a really important framework, and in fact, if you look at our global environmental strategy, our 10 commitments, that actually every one of them is mirrored to have an impact on the SDGs. So we are looking at this holistically, because that's the way to look at sustainability, and part of that it will be getting into these climate advocates, and really important to keep in mind the SDGs.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mercedes. And we've got another great question online, but if you do want to ask a question in the room, please put your hand up and I'll come to you next. Thanks, Mark. So this is from someone, Jill, for you. What can commercial organisations do to maximise help and support our mission as a university?
Gosh, I'll try and summarise this quickly. Yeah, as I said in my short presentation, there's so much that we can do, I think, through partnering with commercial organisations, and I think partnership is the word here. So in terms of diversity of expertise, diversity of minds, it's something I'm passionate about, additional capability and capacity, and obviously for Martin, the diversification of income sources as well. We've seen a really significant increase in the amount of industry support for our research and enterprise funding, and that has been fueling the growth that we've seen in the videos today.
Yeah, brilliant. We see partnership as being so important for the future as well, don't we? It's an interesting one, and maybe Jill, I'll come back to you here, and maybe Scott, but does the university have a strategy to include online students in campus life in Edinburgh, Orkney and the other campuses? So Jill, maybe you would comment first as the sponsor of Heriot-Watt Online, and then I'll come to you, Scott. Thank you.
Yeah, well, our online students are very different students, so we need to respect them as a cohort themselves, actually, and find a way that we can support them as they work and as they progress their lives. So it's something that we're actively discussing with Scott and Russell, what the correct format for that would be. Everything that we do for campus students, I don't think would be applicable to our online students, and we really need to give that some significant thought as we go forward. But it's really lovely actually today to see the flavour of our online students come through in many of the videos and many of the questions, and I think that demonstrates that we have them front and foremost, and we are thinking about this. And we will be going out to them as well to get their help in how we would structure this moving forward.
Great, thank you, Jill. And I know Heather would like to come in quickly, and then I'll come to you, Scott. Thank you.
Say that, I mean, this week, for instance, we have a global study trip here in Scotland, where we have online students from all over the world that are right here. In fact, straight immediately after this meeting, there'll be a large bus outside here with all of them on it and me jumping on it to take them to Panmure House. So we do offer through the year opportunities for our online students to engage with the university, and we hope to have more of those in the future. But
yeah, I'd link it back to the creation of Strategy 2035. We heard earlier that student experience is going to be at the centre of that. And we've created a strategy team, including Russell, and this student experience strategy has to be applicable to all cohorts, online, on campus, undergrad, postgrad. And the other thing I've mentioned, there is appetite from Russell and the university to create and to embed representation in our online students. We're not sure how that will look yet, but we definitely need to create their own representation as opposed to trying to shoehorn them into the Student Union or the Student Council. They need their own representation structure.
Great, thank you very much for those responses. Now, Mark, would you like to raise a question from the audience?
Thank you very much, Ruth. If I could just preface my question by saying what an excellent format I think this has been. It's clear that there's been a huge amount of work that's gone into it to bring everyone together globally, and I think it's worked really well, so thank you to everyone for their efforts. My question relates to the income that was shown on the slide. It seemed to me that in the most recent year, there was a more obvious investment element in our income, and I just wondered if perhaps we could unpack what has been different in the most recent year that means that it's been able to be visible as a purple line and not just because I don't have my glasses on.
Great question. Thank you, Mark, and I'll pass that to Martin.
Thank you. So investment, or the interest that we earn on our investments has grown during the year, and that's probably down to two things. One is the inflationary cost of sales has flowed through into you get better returns, and you'll have noticed that from individuals' own bank accounts. And also, we're very conscious that we need to make sure that our money works hard for us, and therefore we're being very proactive about making sure that we are matching it with our liabilities and being proactive about enhancing that return within the existing risk profile that we have. And we will continue to manage that proactively as we go forward.
Thank you, Martin. And an interesting question online, Mercedes, about nuclear power and the fact that the nuclear workforce is ageing, but it's a potential growth area. Quite an interesting one for a university like ours. What do you think our position would be in relation to the growth opportunities in the nuclear sector?
Okay, so that's a really interesting question as well, and I'm not sure we can address it in 2 minutes, but I think it's really maybe that we need to keep clear a writing principle of what it means. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay. So I think we need to keep clear. Okay, continue. Sorry, apologies. I think it's about keeping a clear principle of the energy transition means precisely that. It's a transition. It's going to take us time to get there, and we need to work on this together. And in that transition, there is going to be a number of different skills and a number of different technologies that are going to be coming and going in some cases. What we have also demonstrated working as part of a project here at Heriot-Watt is the opportunities for new jobs, for skilling and reskilling as part of the transition. And I think that's what we need to keep at the heart, is a transition that will require skilling and reskilling going forward. And a number of options have to come. Some of them have a lifetime, and other ones will stay for longer with us.
Thank you, Mercedes, for handling a very difficult question there in a short time. I'm going to come now back to Richard Williams, and a question about post-pandemic, which still impacts all organisations, I think, and society. What priority has been given within the institution to well-being for our staff and students?
Well, thank you. And first to say that the impact of the pandemic is very much still with us all, in fact, and definitely still very much with students and the way that we all behave and work together. And so well-being is critical of the whole organisation. We want to be a university that flourishes, and that means that people in it have to flourish. So over the last recent years, we have seen increases in the need for additional support, particularly in the area of mental health and support for staff and students, and we've been able to do our very best to provide those services, and we've seen uptake in those services, which has been great to see that matching. But I think in developing a caring community, it's so important that our staff are back on campus and interacting with students and encouraging students to be here and to work together, not least also to enjoy some of the spectacular facilities we have for well-being in Edinburgh, in Oriam, and in Malaysia and Dubai and Orkney, Galashiels, where we've done interventions for personal health and well-being around sport. And that's a further emphasis for us as we move forward. We've really now got a much clearer plan for how we can encourage students to participate in sport and enjoy sport. And I should say that one really memorable moment for this last few months has been to see the very large growth in sports participation, for example, here in Edinburgh. That's been incredible to see the growth of the sports union and the participation by our own staff too, and new facilities that we've been investing in, for example, tennis. So to answer the question, it's a critical area and an area that we really all want to grow as a community in all of our locations.
Thank you very much. I think we could have talked for another half an hour at least with questions and answers, so maybe we'll extend it next year. But just to say thank you very much for everyone who's joined us online and in the room here in Edinburgh. And we're going to close now with our wonderful Heriot-Watt choir performing a traditional form of Gaelic song. Thanks to everyone.
Full of